What's up, y'all? You are listening to For the Artists Say podcast, brought to you by Creative M Projects. I'm your host, Melissa Sharee. Today's feature goes by the name of Shlomi Kastiel. Hopefully I said that right. He's also known as Shlomi the Homie. He is a professional tattoo artist, okay, for 18 plus years, which is crazy when you look at him. You're like, you can't have been doing that for that long. Out of California, of course. He's been blessed to travel all over doing tattooing. He specializes in black and gray portrait realism, but he loves tattooing in every style. Originally, he wanted to become a graphic designer, started attending college. I love how he says plans changed for the better. Ooh, maybe we can get into that. But his passion truly is for tattooing. He loves spending time with family, gets into jijitsu, classic cars. He's all about the positivity. He literally is my brother from another, y'all. So if you're out there, snap it up for Shlomi.
Yeah. How are you, Melissa?
I'm doing well. I'm doing even better now that I have you on here with me.
Right on. Likewise. That's cool.
This is exciting. Yeah, I love, first of all, okay, I love your shop.
Thank you. Yeah, this is where all the magic happens. A lot of tears, a lot of joy, a lot of everything here.
Wait a minute. Tears? Why are there tears in there? People cry because it hurts, huh?
Hurts or just very, emotional, meaningful tattoos. I do a lot of memorial tattoos. So somebody passes away and, they get their son that passed away and or whoever, and, they get to see their face on them, a portrait of their kid. So they get very emotional, or a moment, it captures a moment. But yeah, it's rewarding. It's that I could do that for people. So
that's so dope. I never thought about that aspect of how emotional tattooing can be. I've just thought about the pain. That's the only reason I haven't done it, because I'm a wimp.
Just do it.
So
yeah,
okay,
people get emotional. Some people get emotional. Some people it's weird. Some people, they'll look at their in the mirror, they're like, cool, thanks, and you're like, damn, they like it. And then they go home and they send you this long paragraph, thanks for the great experience, it's amazing. And you're like, dude, you didn't express that at all. But everybody's different, they express themselves differently. But yeah,
that's funny. Sometimes it takes a minute to process. It's like you process the emotions and the experience. I feel like it's that way kind of in life too.
No, you're right. Yeah, sometimes things click in right away, and sometimes you're like, what just happened? Wait a minute. Wow. I got a new car, I can't believe it, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But
okay, so talk to me about this. So you started going to college?
yeah, so since I was a little kid, actually my uncle was like a really big, inspiration in my life. My mom too, but my uncle, he was really like the artist. He would just draw some cool stuff. And whenever I'd go to my grandparents' house, he would have like this just cool drawing. I remember this one particular one. It was like a mound with a windy road leading to the top of this mound, like a castle on top or something like that. And I was like, wow, this is so cool. I'm like, I can't believe you could do that with a pencil. And then he would just kind of like spark something in my head. His name is Danny. And I was like, wow, what made you come up with that or whatever? And he's like, wow, look at, you could find art everywhere. You could look at these tiles on the ground and look, can you picture, like, there's an elephant here, almost kind of like when you're looking at the clouds. And he's like, can you picture this, So it kind of got my mind going, kind of looking for things within, art within anything. So I started drawing, and I wasn't good at it in the beginning. That's one thing I think I would love for people to kind of understand, in at least in my eyes. I don't think anybody's born with a natural talent. A lot of people are like, oh my God, you're just born with it. No, I when I started drawing, I my drawings were crap, weren't great. But I think the gift that somebody that we're all born with is we have a love for something even when we suck at it, so when you're for me, I was just obsessed with drawing until it became good, so I kept drawing. I remember one of the first drawings that I was kind of infatuated with drawing is like animals and horses and women's faces. I always liked drawing, realistic stuff. Anything I could see, I would, look at it. I was born in Israel, so it wasn't like it wasn't internet back then, or it was just like, what can I draw? And I would look for things to draw and just draw whatever I could see that was still. And so I think just being obsessed with it, you just get obsessed until you get it, and then you build off of that until you get really good, and then you get better and better. And if you really love it, you never stop wanting to get better, no matter what point of your career, so but yeah, I just and in high school I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I knew I always wanted to become a well-known artist. I think that was like in back of my head, just always, man, it'd be cool to be a famous artist. And I remember like right before I was graduating, that in school they kind of like try to steer you like, oh well, since you like these hobbies, you could do this. And then one of the options was computer graphic artist or designer. And so I was like, oh, maybe I'll go to college and do that. An artist wasn't on anything they were kind of talking about. But I remember one of my friends, my family friends, they came over and they were like, Shlomi, what are you going to do now that you're going to graduate? And they didn't mean anything bad by it, but I think they're just an old school mentality. But they were like, well, now that you're graduating, what do you want to do? And I said, first thing that came to my mind wasn't computer graphic artist, it was, I would love to become a famous artist. And they laughed. And I was like, they're like, the only way you become a famous artist is if you pass away and then your artwork gets famous. And I think they were thinking more like Picasso and Van Gogh and, some of these older artists, their paintings didn't make millions until they passed away. So I think that was their mentality. So I didn't think they meant bad by it, but it really hit me hard. I was like, maybe they're right, So I was like, maybe I'll just become and go for something more safer or whatever. So, but then I went to college for computer graphic artist and took all these, life drawing naked people just sitting there and computer graphics and all this stuff. But I was like, I can't see myself sitting in front of a computer all day and just didn't feel me, So life takes you different ways. And eventually, I'd seen one of my buddies getting tattooed and I was like, man, I should try this. This feels like, something like be cool to try and to get back into art. And that was when I was 25. And once I started, and yeah, the rest is history. So it's can't regret it.
Okay, so yeah, because I mean, from what I've heard, it's like tattooing on like human canvas is a very specific skill. Like it's not the same as, if you're
No,
using paper and stuff like that.
yeah, totally different. I mean, just because you can draw doesn't mean you can tattoo. And I mean, but if you get obsessed with it, you can figure it out. But paper is very forgiving. You could erase the pencil. The paper doesn't move on you. It doesn't bleed, doesn't cry, doesn't, flinch. You got, everybody's skin is different. You gotta, some people's skin is like tattooing an alligator. It's so thick. You're like, geez, like I gotta, do a couple passes on this guy or whoever. But yeah, it's definitely, and everybody heals differently. Some people don't take care of their tattoos, even though you tell them exactly what to do. They go home and one of their friends is like, no, you should do this. This works. And then they apply all these different things. And now it's like getting irritated. But, so as an artist, you want to, or tattoo artists, you want to make sure you're specific about how to take care of it. And but yeah, everybody's different. Everybody's skin is different. Some people drink before they come here and they don't say anything. So you're tattooing them and they're just bleeding way more than you know they should. So the blood dilutes the ink as you're tattooing them, so it doesn't come out as black or gray as you want it. So all these obstacles, but yeah, that's the fun of it. It's a challenge, and but at the end you're just like, wow, I made that on somebody, and they get to walk around their walking billboard.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty cool.
So you must have a lot of patience
With certain things. So yeah. It's funny because my dad is a mechanic. He's been a mechanic as long as I can remember. But he would like, oh, help me out on this, and then like trying to put a bolt between all these parts and stuff, and trying to like, as soon as that bolt falls down, I'm like, fuck, I don't know, I just get so frustrated. But I could sit in front of scan or paper for hours and hours, and I'll be happy. So I think everybody's got certain things that they're, if you're passionate about it, you'll have the patience and you'll want to be there. But if you're not passionate about it just doesn't capture your interest, you're just going to be like, screw this.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I think.
Okay, now you said that you were born and raised in Israel?
Yeah, I was born in Israel, and we came out to the US when I was 11. So
okay, so you were there long enough to remember what it was like. I mean,
yeah, I remember.
Can you kind of compare and contrast growing, the two different cultures in terms of your experience? I know you were a kid in one and you were kind of an adult in the other, but
I mean, in Israel, I grew up in, was born in 79. So in the 80s, majority of all of the 80s, I was in Israel. And so I'm sure, I don't know how it was out here in the US, but childhood was fun. You go outside, you didn't have to worry about getting snatched up, or, you could just, I'm sure people got snatched up. I just wasn't social media to let everybody know about it, but,
mm-hmm.
it was, I had a great childhood, and, my, we didn't grow up wealthier and like that, but, my dad, struggled, and he, my mom worked hard around the house, taking care of us. And it just, as far as the comparisons, I would say, I mean, I remember that when we first came to the US, the first big change I realized, like, on being on the freeway, I was like, wow, there's like 4 or 5 lanes on this road. I'm like, I've only seen like one, so I don't remember more. I was like, everything's just bigger here. Everything just like, food was like bigger meals, and just everything was just, just different. The stoplights, I remember that had the arrow, or the countdown or whatever. I remember that was like a lot different. But I mean, as far as in everything else, I mean, it's, you got cars, you got roads, you got, I guess,
Okay.
as a kid, I didn't realize the other differences.
Yeah. No, you have to forgive me. Hopefully this does not come across as a super ignorant question. But
no,
what I'm thinking of is like, so Israel for me is, I always equate Israel with being, like very spiritual, very holy, like, the Holy Land. So, and then when I think of like, cause I'm born and raised in America. So like, I feel like from a young age, I was very aware of like wanting to be like larger than life. You know what I mean? Like always dreaming, always thinking of like big things when it comes to like creativity and art. And I'm just wondering like if it's like that, or if it was like that for you as a kid in Israel. Like, were you very aware of like arts and creativity, or was it more like of a spiritual place to grow up in?
Mhm. Maybe looking at it now as more of a spiritual place. I guess there's a lot of, different, like, Jerusalem, for example. I remember being there, and I remember like the stones and just very the architectural stuff, is just very looking, and now, like, I didn't appreciate it back then because I think because I was younger and just like, oh, we're going here, and as a kid I was like, wow, this is like big,
Mhm.
but looking at it now, but I guess the culture, is more like in the Jewish religion. There's a holiday called Yom Kippur, which is you fast for 24 hours. You don't eat, drink, you can't drive or nothing. And then out there for that day, from what I remember, is everybody on that day did go walk outside just to, because you can't drive. And all the streets, nobody would drive. Like everybody would just be walking and, going to the temple or whatnot. So it's it's like it's cool to see like everybody doing this one thing. Where here, you'd never know because,
Mhm.
there's most, you know, the Jews that are celebrating it, they're not, it's not like we're packed everywhere. It's just like here and there. And if they do, and then some of them don't follow it exactly, they'll still drive or whatnot. So you won't notice it. But so yeah, as far as in that, you know, um, I guess as a kid, I didn't really, you know, you appreciate things more when you get older or when you don't have it. So, but
Mhm.
being out here, I've been out here for 30 plus years. So yeah.
Did your family, mom, dad, the uncle that you looked up to, did they support you as you were moving towards being an artist? Like when they found out you were going to be tattooing or whatever it was, were they like, "Yeah, this is awesome," or
Um, my uncle, because I haven't really I haven't seen my uncle Danny since I left Israel. So 30 plus years ago. I've talked to him on the phone a few times, and we stay in touch like once in a while on like Instagram. So I know he's proud, and I know he's all into the art. He's a really well known chef out in Israel now, so he does like some pretty cool stuff. So
Whoa.
he took a different route, but um, my dad, I know my dad's old school, and I love him, but he's got his ways. And I remember when I first I told him that I was gonna tattoo full time. I think he's more of like take the safe route. Maybe you got kids to take care of. You should, you know, maybe that's not the right move, and blah blah. But when
Mhm.
I told my mom, she asked me a couple questions. She's like, do you think you'll be able to make enough money to support the kids and this and that? And I told her, if I do this and that, I think I'll be all right, and I'll have more time with the kids. I'll be happier. And she just said, well, if you think you could do it, then you should go for it. And to me, that's all that mattered. And it's nice to, it's good to believe in yourself. And once you're determined, you're like, I'm gonna do this. That's all you need. But it's nice to have somebody, especially a mom, that you look up to, give you that extra support, and you're like, oh, that feels good. Somebody else believes in me. And because really, when I was about to make that transition from working this job that I had full time to tattooing, it was scary. I was like,
Mhm.
man, am I making the right decision? I'm getting a steady paycheck, take care of my kids and all that. And I was raising them on my own. I took sole custody of them at that time. So I was like, is this a selfish move? Is this something that I just want to follow my heart in this one? And so it was, yeah, it's pretty scary. But, and a lot of people, they're kind of same attitude. Well, you have kids, you sure you want to do this and that? But I think you just got to follow your heart. And if it feels scary and it feels exciting at the same time, that's usually a good sign that you should just go for it. And I told myself, you know what, if it doesn't work out, I could always get a job doing what I was doing. But
Mhm.
at least I tried it, at least I said, at least I gave it a full go without having that regret, so, and I'm glad I did. It was best decision I've made financially and, career wise, the best, decision. So definitely don't regret it.
I'm gonna snap to that. Okay, I love that. I love that.
Thank you.
That is a common I want to say roadblock or like fork in the road for artists, is like choosing between, am I going to be able to handle the everyday like responsibilities, or am I going to like go after what I think I should be going after because I can't stop thinking about it. And so I feel like sometimes artists will tend to kind of not fully go in. They'll just like kind of dabble. But I think when you do that, it doesn't actually set you up to be fully successful. And
Yeah, I think, yeah, I agree. Um, I see a lot of that, because I tattoo all walks of life, all ages, all types of careers, and um, but I see a lot of people that, I could have easily been that guy, like, oh, I used to draw really cool stuff back when I was younger, all the way through high school, and that would have been my highlight of my art. But
Mhm.
I think I had a few obstacles in my life where I felt like, God, is this really like what I'm supposed to do? And I was searching. I was like, what else can I do? And sometimes it's because it's just a hobby all the way through high school. So you don't think it could be a career sometimes, and it could go for different people with different things that they used to do, but they're searching like, what can I do that makes me happy? And I think I believe in like this thing called law of attraction, manifestation, right? And if you
Mhm.
think about something hard enough and you believe that you'll find it, you will find it. It's just going to happen. So I think if most people don't think about that. They just get their, whatever job they have, and then they get promoted, and then they go, and that's fine. If that's what makes them happy, great. But they get stuck in this career, and they have kids and family, and they're like, well, I can't just leave, because how am I going to make a living? But or they think, oh, what else can I do? I don't know what I could do. And then they stop thinking about it. But if you make that a priority, and tell yourself, what's going to make me happy? I need to find that one thing that's just I could be really good at and be passionate about. But think about it every day until it pops up. It's like a light bulb just snaps one day. But if you don't keep thinking about it, it's not going to happen. But if you do, I promise you, it's gonna let you're just gonna be like, oh my God, why didn't I think about this years ago? But it just because you constantly pursued that answer, or that, the answer to that question you've been having, it's just
Mhm.
gonna pop up. And then for me, that's like, you never think like, oh, okay, he's been an artist. Why didn't he think about tattooing all these years? And I walked into a tattoo shop a couple times for piercing or whatever, but at 25, I walked in. I was like, because I was searching, like, what can I do? I need to make a little more money, but I really want to do something I enjoy. And it's like watching all these other artists drawing and tattooing. I felt like I was back in like my high school class, drawing class. I'm like, I felt like, even though I wasn't part of anybody that was there, but I felt
Mhm.
like almost like I belonged there. And I was like, man, I need to try this out, And it wasn't an easy thing to get into, because the tattoo world, especially, almost 20 years ago, was a lot harder to get into, because everybody's like, they don't want to just give you information. You gotta, or you have to get an apprenticeship to get in. So, and I didn't know anybody in that field. So I've had to figure it out myself you know, until I ran into, you know, some of the most awesome people. My best friend, Mikey Montoya, he's helped me out so much in my career. Just like really criticize my work, like truly honestly, and just gave me like, really good advice, and made me just work harder until I figured things out. Um, and I'll always be grateful for that. But I think, and that's another thing too. When somebody gets into something they're passionate about, don't be afraid to ask, like, hey, what do you think? Even people that are not into that career or that field, just ask your kids or anybody, like, hey, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? And be ready to be crushed by honesty, because
Mm,
that's what's going to help you grow, and if you're afraid to ask that question, you're just going to assume you're doing good.
mhm.
And one day you're going to get a reality check. Damn, why do I suck? Maybe you didn't ask enough questions, so, but yeah.
That's so good. I love it. You're like, be ready to be crushed
Yeah, I heard,
by the honesty.
the honesty and the truth sometimes could be very hurtful, but we need it, and to grow, because
Yeah.
you don't see things. Sometimes you're aware of it, but you think, nobody's gonna notice this, Like,
Mm-hmm.
like I did a portrait. I remember one of the first few portraits I did. I'm like, oh man, I know this came out good. Can't wait to show my buddy Mikey this, and he'd look at it like, man, that the shading's rough, her eyes crooked, her hair's messed up. I'm like, damn, like he noticed all that. So the next time I did a portrait, I'm like, I better step up my game. I got to make sure everything's on point, and then next thing you know, like we're just pushing each other. He'll text me a picture like, hey, what do you think of this? And then I'll be like, hey, everything's good, but this is a little off, I think, or this and that. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, just it's fun, and if you're passionate about it and you really want to be great at something, I think that's one of the recipes.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
But because he was your friend, that's the main reason why you were open to receive what he had to say.
Um, yes, but I would ask, what I would ask my kids too sometimes. And, even though they didn't know anything about tattooing,
Mm-hmm.
I would just want to see, like, or just a random person, like, hey, what do you think of this? Not a random person walking down the street, but just, somebody that was around me at the time or whatever. And then they would be like, oh, it looks cool. Or I'll show, my lady, I'll be like, hey, what do you think of this? She'll be like, something's off, And then I'm like, if she thinks something's off, somebody else probably thinks something is off. So let me figure it out, So it makes you just kind of open your eyes. It's just somebody that's willing to be honest with you, because most people are not. They'll tell you, you'll post something on Instagram, Facebook, or whatever, and then everybody comments, sick, badass, awesome, and then,
Mm-hmm.
but then you realize that, you might not even think about it till like a couple years later, and then you grow as an artist, and you're like, your artwork gets better, and then you look at old stuff that you didn't, you see all the imperfections you did, and you're like, damn, I can't believe I posted this, but all these people commented like all these amazing things, and it wasn't amazing. So you're like, shit, were they lying, or were they just, like, just didn't know any better? So you just kind of check yourself.
Yeah, there's a couple of things in what you're saying right now. Because I feel like sometimes people just have a different lens. Like for some people, that might really have been like, oh man, that is sick. Because their measurement or their standard is in a certain place, you know? But
Yeah, no, you're
then
right.
again, like I don't know, I'm flashing back to like my mom will tell me things and I'll be looking at her like, did you just say that? And she's like, listen, I'm gonna tell you, okay? Your friends aren't gonna tell you the truth, but I'm gonna tell you the truth. And I'm like, dang,
Yeah,
mom.
hey, moms are honest.
But moms are definitely honest. But I mean, I don't think we should take lightly either, Shalomi, the fact that like you had to get to that place, even though like you're asking like your friend, your kids, maybe some people you don't know that great, like you still had to get to a place where you were willing to be open to receive what was going to come back to you,
Yeah, yeah, you
like
got to be
how did
open
you
to it.
get there? Was that just age or maturity or what?
um I think determination to be better,
Mm,
because if you're like, and that's part of wanting to be better. If you just assume you're getting better just by doing it, then you know, Einstein had this quote, which I love. He said, it's insanity to think that you could do the same thing over and over again and expect different results. It's insanity. It's insane. So you're going to do the exact same thing over and over again, and things are just going to be different? No. So when I was tattooing and I noticed things weren't like I was doing the same thing, I'm like, something's got to change. I got to, you know, what do I got to change? So either I would try something else, or I would ask, you know, like, hey, what do you think of this? And when it was, you know, because I was desperate, I wanted to be better. I just like, I know my work could be better. So I was like, man, I want to really, you know, improve on it. So when you ask, you're desperate to get better. You're like, let me ask somebody, you know. And in my case, I was fortunate enough that, you know, I had good people around me and they were honest, and, you know, so, you know, but it was up to me to figure out the how. Like, you know, it wasn't just like, hey, it's messed up, this is what you should do, which is the fun process, you know. So like my buddy Mikey would be like, you know, man, it's the shading is a little rough, you know, and in the hair or the eye, you know, but he didn't tell me like how to correct it. I had to go, you know, and then when I worked on it again, I'm like, okay, let me figure this out. Okay, this is smoother, this is better, this is, you know, take my time on certain things. But yeah, you know, you if you're really determined and desperate to get better, you'll do desperate things, and then getting your feelings hurt a little bit is in, you know, sometimes, you know, desperate measures to, if you really want to get there, you know.
I'm thinking of a question. Okay. And I feel like I'm going to know your answer, just based off of what you talked about earlier with this. But
Okay.
I'm just going to ask it because you have, like, I love your name. Okay. Shlomi. Like, you're the only Shlomi in the whole world that I know. Even your last name is like, it's a drop the mic name. It's like, dang, that's a great name. So
Thanks.
I feel like this is my question. This is my question. There are some people that believe that some people, like, they're just destined to be like great and amazing, and you know, and it's like your name almost gives you that, like, yeah, we knew Shalomi was going to be like amazing in some sort of artistic, creative way because your name is just so sick. But it's like, do you believe that? Do you believe that people are like, it's in the cards for them? Like, it's already written that you are going to do great things? Do you think that's like select for some people, or do you think that's for all?
No, I believe it's for some people. I you know, I think talking to some people, you're like, you could give them all the best advice, and, you know, because sometimes you look from the outside, you're like, oh shit, this is the issue, or this is what you need to do to, like, to step up to the next level. Not that I know everything, I don't, but just sometimes you've been through certain things, you're like, I see that, you know, what it is. And it's like, they're like, but nothing changes, they do the same thing. But sometimes you just, it has to come within, you know. I don't know how to explain it, but I just, you feel this burning fire when you're just like want to be great at something. And I'm not saying I'm great or this and that, but I'm learning, and I'm always trying to get better. So if I'm better than what I was, you know, last year, to me that's a great, you know, how would I say, just, you know, you're moving in the right direction, you know. But yeah, I don't think everybody's got that fire and that will to be great. Some people are just content with just working whatever 9 to 5 and just spending, you know, their, you know, their family time, or just, you know, and that's nothing wrong with it, and that's great. That's another great in its own way, you know, because who are we to say, you know, only you're great, you know, tattooing, or a rock star, whatever. That's great. You could be, there's different versions of great, you know. So, you know, we can't knock anybody for what they choose. But if they complain about it and they're like, I can't stand this, blah blah, you're so lucky, because I've had people like, you're so lucky you get to do this for a living. I get to be this, working this shitty job or whatever. Then yeah, then it's not within them, because they just choose to be just staggered. Just they choose to just be on the same. They're not doing anything about it. But if you really want change, you're gonna just be desperate, and you will find ways. And you're gonna be great at whatever you put your heart into. I remember getting really good advice from an old manager of mine. He said, if you're gonna do something, just whatever you do, just give it 110%. You're already here, you're already doing it. Give it 110%, everything you got. And then you think the person that gives it 20% one day, 50% another day, 100% another day, 20%, how far do you think they'll be in a year versus the person that gives it 100%? You're gonna go way past, right? And then if you're passionate about it, it's just really gonna show, and you're gonna be successful. Versus, if you're just, not giving it all you got, and you're gonna regret it. You're gonna, and then you're already used to doing that on a daily basis, so it becomes part of you. I think it just becomes of who you are. So when that opportunity comes your way, you're not gonna be lazy certain days. You're not gonna be like, oh, well, today I'm just gonna give it 50% because it's kind of what I do. But if you're passionate about it, you already got the work ethic. So when the right opportunity comes, you're just already killing it, and you're really gonna surpass, a lot of your old self, I should say.
Wow. All right. I'm taking a peek at the clock too, because I'll just keep rambling off some stuff. But I do want to know this. So do you have like a lot of free time to just draw and just do whatever you want? Or are you primarily spending the bulk of your time when you are doing your sketches and stuff like that, actually like doing your work on people?
That's a good question. I feel like for a few years now, I feel like my time is spread pretty thin. Maybe it's because I'm not prioritizing like certain things, but you gotta make a living, so you gotta work, gotta feed the family. But so I do work a lot, and during the week, I take the weekends off, so I could have like time on the weekend to do certain like arts and crafts and drawing or whatever, painting, but I choose to spend it with my family. I do jujitsu like 3 times a week, for about a couple hours at a time. So, which I love. I'm obsessed with it, and it's something that it's really helped my health a lot, and just my mind, and it's pretty awesome. So, if whoever's not doing it, you should try it. It's really good for you. And my daughter and my son do it too, and it's pretty cool. But yeah, once in a while I'll just sit here, and I'll paint something, or I'll draw something. But I think that's one of my future goals, is to, as I get older, I don't think I'll ever stop tattooing, as long as I can. But I would want to transition some of that time from tattooing to painting and drawing. I think that's definitely one of my future goals, just to kind of slow it down as far as in that. Definitely, because I enjoy it. I love it.
Do you feel like because you do what you do as an artist, that you are more grounded, more like you live a life of kind of, because you seem super chill, like super even kill.
Yeah.
Like, do you feel like it calms you or balances you or in some way?
Yeah. I mean, I think I'm naturally like just, pretty chill person. Everybody's like, damn, you're so calm. You're like, yeah, but tattooing does, and definitely makes me a happier human being, because
Mhm.
I look forward to tattooing. And don't get me wrong, there's days you're like, man, I had a long night last night, whether it's partying or just working, and then like, all right, let's do this, But once
Mhm.
I'm tattooing or working with my clients, I really, I'm happy. I don't really like you know not feel like going to work. I really enjoy. I don't dread it. I really enjoy what I do. I really enjoy talking to. I love what I do tattooing, but I feel like it's a huge blessing in my life to be able to talk to people on a personal level, because you hear so many like crazy and cool stories, that what people are going through, what they've been through, or advice, or you know, or just
Mhm.
people that have passed, for example. They tell you stories about them, and you're like, wow, it makes you appreciate life. It makes you aware of certain things. And then
Mhm.
a lot of times, they give you, something that you can take back with you, but also I try to give people like some really good, you know, advice that I believe works. And when they come back, in the future and like, man, I took your advice. This really like changed my life or helped me out. It's very rewarding, when people like listen and take your advice. Some people, they listen and they don't, they do the same thing, but then the ones that are really, it seems like it touched them, and it changed something within them. So I feel very blessed to do that. And you know being positive, I think, is a huge thing, with everybody. Never judge a book by its cover, because some people are, you think they're one way, and then you sit down and you tattoo them, and you're like, man, this person is super cool, like I would have never guessed.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, you have to tell us what your name means for sure before we get off of here.
It means super awesome. That's what it means. No, I'm just kidding. Uh,
I believe it. You're super awesome.
thanks. No, so Shlomi is it's more of a biblical name, and it's like it's from the Bible. So King Solomon
Mhm.
is, so the modern name for Solomon is Shlomi in Israel. So my name takes after my grandfather on my dad's side. And in Castiel, um, my my grandparents, they're they migrated from Spain, actually from Morocco. And back then, they a lot of the Jews were kind of hated, and they're getting kicked out wherever they were living at. So they used to name change their last name into whatever town they're staying at. I want to say it was, don't quote me on this, but I want to say it's Castellano.
Mhm.
And so they took part of the city's name, and then they added the word God. In Hebrew means El. So El in Hebrew means God. So they took Casti from Castellano and then added El, which made Castiel. And then it's where my last name originated from. Um, so yeah, so I got, it's pretty cool to have God within my name. But so yeah, and then Shlomi the Homie, kind of, people would have a really hard time saying my name or remembering how to say it, or they'd butcher it like all through from elementary school to high school, like salami, pastrami, and so I'm like, man, what could I'll tell them like Shlomi, they're like, show me. I'm like, so I would just be like Shlomi the Homie, and be like, oh, the homie. So it just kind of stuck with me, and then people would just call me, what's up, Shlomi the Homie? So I'm like, man, so when I started, doing my social media and all that, I was like, oh, what better name to do it than Shlomi the Homie? And people would easily remember it versus try to figure out what Shlomi means, you know. They're like, is this food or something? So yeah.
Was a smooth transition. It wasn't even planned. Look, I was gonna ask you, what are your socials? Is like, bam, Shlomi the Homie. Y'all can find him on like.
Hey, you're breaking up there. Sorry. Say
Oh,
that
it's
again.
okay. I was like, that was a smooth transition because I was gonna ask you, where can people find you, and you basically told them already.
Yeah.
Shlomi the Homie, and I'm like, is that on Instagram?
Yeah. SHLOMI, Shlomi the Homie. So, yeah. But yeah, it's definitely unique. It's different, you know. But they always butcher it, even in, you know, Jamba Juice or something. They always have like a whole meeting, like before they even say, they're like, what do they say? And they talk to their coworkers. How do you say it? And they're like, salami. I'm like, shit. So I just say my name is Sean. It's easier.
At least they try.
Yeah, they tried.
No, you will not. That is. Sean is too basic for you. Okay, we will not be using Sean.
All right, no Sean. That's fun.
Man, all right. Well, let's see. Do you have to work? Are you tattooing people later or what?
Yeah, I have so me and my kids are gonna do jujitsu in about an hour or so, give or take. And then I have a client tonight at 9:30. So I work pretty crazy hours. So so yeah, I'll probably be done like around 1, 2, 3 a.m. Who knows? And then back at it tomorrow. Yeah, I tattoo Monday through Friday, and then sometimes if I need a little break or I have a cancellation, I'm like, oh, you know what, today I'm, you know, just gonna chill. So sometimes you got to do that. You got to let your body rest too. So got to balance it out. You know, I think that's one of the hardest things as a, you know, when you have a family, is balancing your time, making sure you give enough time to your work, give enough time to your partner, give enough time to your kids, and then if you have any extra time for yourself. So I'm blessed that, you know, my time for myself is, you know, tattooing. Even though it's work, I feel like it keeps me sane. So
Well, that's cool because there's only 24 hours in a day.
not enough.
We only get so many hours.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Wow. All right. Well, man, it's always hard to land the plane, but we're going to have to wrap it. We're going to start wrapping it up.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking your time and, you know, talking to me, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying yes.
Yeah,
You
of
know,
course.
I always throw it out there to every artist that, you know, maybe we'll have a part 2 to every conversation. You never know.
Yeah, you never know. Definitely. If you need some more positivity in your life, give me a call. We'll record some more. But yeah, for sure.
Yes. Oh my gosh. All right. Well, thank you so much. Let me just remind you guys that you've been listening to For the Artist. And we have been talking to Shlomi the Homie. So you need to find him on Instagram. You can see his work. He's an amazing tattoo artist, and we've just had a wonderful conversation. So until next week, you guys already know what it is. I want you to keep and peace.